garden friends. I am here with Gabriel and we are going to work on Science Kit number 12 with you. So I hope you've enjoyed the past several weeks learning all about trees. This week we get to do a really awesome maker project. We are going to build a tree. So you have your instruction sheet here, and then you also have this making a tree. Oh, the light makes it to where you can't see. Let's see, there we go. You also have your making a tree STEM worksheet. So you're going to need these papers out, and actually kind of don't need the instruction sheet if you have the worksheet. So what we're doing is we're going to make a tree that is three-dimensional. So your tree needs to stand up by itself, hopefully, but if you can hold it up, that will work too, right? And you can use any kind of materials that you would like to use. So we're going to show you an example of our two designs. My design is using some recyclable materials, and Gabriel is going to design one with Legos. You can use any kind of bricks, you can use recycled materials, you can use sticks and fallen leaves if you want. So the main things that you need to do, your constraints, are that once you get your tree built, it needs to hold a seed, a pine cone, or a nest without it falling off. Now you don't have to go collect an actual seed, pine cone, or nest. You can also make those. So for example, depending on how big Gabriel's Lego tree is, he could just use a piece of Lego as his seed, or he could make or build a pine cone or a nest out of Lego to also put into his tree. So whatever materials you're using, you can also create something that it's going to hold on to or hold up. Your tree must have at least 4 parts. You need to have roots, a trunk, branches, and leaves. If you want to do additional parts, that's great. And then your tree must be three-dimensional, as I said before. So before you jump in with your materials and start making, I want you to take some time to do some planning. So you can see here that I've done a little bit of design on my worksheet. I've drawn a model of my picture and I've made a list of my materials. And let's see if we can show you. Gabriel drew a model of his and listed his materials. Okay. And if you want to use a bigger sheet of paper to draw your model, this is kind of tiny, so you're welcome to use the back of the paper or a separate sheet of paper to draw your model. But take the time to do that planning work before you jump in and start making. The other thing to consider too is as you design your tree or as you start to build your tree, you're going to want to look at what can you improve. If it falls over, if it doesn't successfully hold your nest, or your seed or your pine cone, think about how you can modify it, redesign, and try again. And just remember, this is an iterative process. That means we do it over and over, improving it a little bit each time. If you're successful the first time, you can decide if you want to make some more modifications just for fun. Be sure to upload pictures and or a video to your teacher's classroom showing, if you can do video, you can point out all of the parts on your tree model for your teacher. If you do just a snapshot, that's great too. Okay, so we're going to start designing. I'm not going to record the whole process because it might take us a while to figure this out, but we'll get started and you can see how we start with our materials. Okay, so I have paper, and I have a paper towel roll, and I have some rope, and I have some more paper, and I have glue and scissors. When you collect your materials, make sure that you put something down. If you're using glue or paint or anything that might be messy, put something down to protect the table that you're working on so that you don't damage your workspace, okay? So Gabriel, what are you going to use as a base? Do you have any ideas?
Not really. I'm starting with the trunk first, and then I'm planning to have like a network of roots underneath, and then I'm just going to build a base out of Lego, I think.
Okay.
Or, since it should be flat, the table will have to work.
Okay, cool. So I've got a big piece of cardboard that I covered with brown paper that I'm using as my base. And I poked a few holes in it before we started so that when I hold it up, my roots are actually underneath my base. So my roots are really underneath the ground.
I like how your roots are, but you do that splaying out with the layers.
Right?
That's pretty cool.
So because that's what roots really do, right? They're big, or like for a tree, they're going to have big fat roots, but then they get smaller and smaller and smaller until they're just like the size of a hair.
Gosh, I have so many of these red bricks.
And remember, your tree can be any color. We all know that trees are generally brown with green leaves, but if you want to make a tree that's a different color, that's great. This is your tree model. The important thing is that you're showing us that you know what the parts of a tree are. It can be purple. It can be any color. That's fine. You can make it out of Play-Doh. All right. I think I need to use some glue. Are you working on your trunk now? That part's your
The
trunk.
trunk is pretty much, as far as I can tell, shooting this again. I haven't really figured out how to make roots fit well right now.
I wonder if you had something bigger than that and you could...
Like, I could stick it on this, but, like, it's, I'm still stuck on the color issue. Like I want the roots to be a different color.
Got it.
Which is complicated because I have a ton of red.
Right.
And not a lot
well,
of
what
yellow
about
colors.
if you don't need that long, skinny white one? That might make a good root that you could like stick off of here.
Yeah.
So friends, when you're working on this project at home, sometimes it's nice to be able to work with a friend, but of course, the way we're doing distance learning right now, we can't usually do that. If you have a sibling, they can totally join you in this project. Or if you, maybe you can get together in a Google Meet or a little chat room, however you chat with your friends online. Maybe you can get together with a friend online and you can talk about your models and your ideas and just sort of work together that way. All right, I think I've got my trunk and roots attached. Here's my roots underneath my ground. But I thought I also might do some roots above the ground. You know how some trees you can see the top of their roots? I thought I would try and do that too. There's one in my above ground roots. And then I thought I would cover my trunk. Do you remember what covers a trunk? It's called bark. Remember, that's like the tree's outer layer and it's protective. It'll protect the tree against weather and insects and diseases, fire even. Okay. So there's the bark on my tree. I might have to hold this glue together for a bit.
I do not love this solution.
I think it sort of makes sense though.
Okay.
I think it's definitely visually, if I know that's a tree trunk, I'm going to know that the bottom part, those white parts are roots. That makes sense to me.
Until I break top.
Right. Well, I had this idea to use these toothpicks as branches, and I'm not entirely sure it's the greatest idea, but we have like 3,000 toothpicks because when you get to middle school, you get to do a bridge out of toothpicks. And we bought a lot of toothpicks for our middle schooler. So I had a bunch left over. He already finished his bridge. Okay, oops. I don't know how these branches are going to work. Do you think I can push it? Oh, I can't actually push the... Oh, there we go. Maybe?
You broke it.
I broke it. Okay, so in my design, I think what I needed to do was punch holes through the cardboard for my branches before I glued it to my base, because now I'm having a little bit of a hard time connecting what I wanted to be branches. There we go. I found a way. Since I covered it with bark, I don't know if you can see that. Since I covered it with the paper like bark, I was able to stick the toothpick into the paper. So it's not really through the cardboard layer. I'm going to put some glue there and hopefully that'll help it stay. I don't know. Oops, there we go. I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll see. Hi garden friends! Sandra and Gabriel here with our finished tree models. Gabriel, do you want to tell everybody about your model?
Sure. Okay. So I used Legos for my model, and I realized that these particular ones are kind of old and not very sturdy. So I built a really big base for the roots of my tree, and here's my trunk, and my branches are up here. I have some red, some blue, some gray. And my leaves are these little flat pieces here. There are not very many leaves because it's autumn. Is my joke, mainly because I couldn't find more things like leaves.
And you have a pine cone.
And I have an actual pine cone.
Like a real, actual pine cone.
Yes, that the kids brought home, so it holds a pine cone.
Nice job! I think mine's going to collapse if we put that pine cone on it. Okay, so here's my tree. I have the roots that I poked through underground. And then also you can see I did some above ground roots. You know how when you walk around the tree, often there's parts of the roots you can kind of see above the ground. And I added paper for the bark. Oh, one of my branches back here just sort of flopped over. Let me see if I can fix it. And so then I have branches and I have leaves. That one branch is going to keep falling off. Let's see. So did you have modifications from your original design that you had to do?
Kind of while I was building it. Yeah, some of the Legos were not really staying together well, so I kind of had to build a more flat base at the top, because if you pushed on it at all, it would just kind of fall off.
Flop over.
Like I just broke it. Brilliant.
It's okay, you already did your test.
I know, right? It's okay. So I kind of had to restructure some things to make sure that they would be able to, where did I have this? I think I had it over here. Just so I'd be able to have a place for it to be, like,
right.
Like a kind of a cup-shaped holding place for the weight I wanted to put on it.
I had to redesign. So initially, you can see maybe at the top here, where I've got just toothpicks with leaves. And that's initially what I had all around the tree, and I really just didn't like the way it looked. So I used more of the brown paper I wrapped it around my toothpicks to make that match the bark of my tree more closely. And then it also let me make the branches a little bit longer because I like twisted up the paper.
I really like the character it gives to the branches because of it has that extra texture on it too.
Thank you. So Gabriel helped me make a little nest, and it has an egg in it, and hopefully my glue isn't dry, so I'm not sure this is really the best time to test it, but we're going to try and put it in my tree. It stayed! Yay! I'm so excited. So garden friends, I hope you have enjoyed this project. This is definitely outside of my normal comfort zone. This is such a maker thing that a lot of our teachers love to do. And it was kind of challenging for me, but Gabriel supported me, so I really appreciate your help. Thank you for doing this project with me. So have fun making your tree models, whatever you want to make them out of. Make sure if you do something that's messy, please make sure and clean it up so that your adults aren't having to clean up after you. And also, almost more important than doing your tree model is make sure you get outside this week and spend some time with some trees. Enjoy the outdoor environment. I think it's going to be raining. So remember, just because there's bad weather, it's not really bad weather. You just have to dress for it, right? So get your raincoats and get your boots and go check out what the tree looks like in the rain. Maybe use the four senses and see what it looks like. What does it sound like? Can you hear the rain falling on the leaves or maybe on the ground from the leaves? It's a really cool sound. Maybe it smells different. I think usually when it rains, I notice different smells than I do when it's just dry all the time. And what did I do? Sight, smell, hear. Oh, touch. You probably don't want to taste a tree, right? But maybe notice if the bark feels different when it's wet, or if the leaves feel different. They're probably going to be even slipperier. Oh, that was a mouthful. When they're wet. So remember, just make sure you're dressed warmly and appropriately for the rain, and ask your adult to take you out and visit some trees this week. Okay, bye, garden friends.